The acrid tang of singed construction paper ripped through the air, jolting me back to reality. My heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. In my trembling hand, I had the Valentine's Day card in which I poured my limited artistic skills into lay smoldering. Not a single classmate had wanted it, and the weight of rejection pressed down on me like a physical blow. Hot tears blurred the vision of Ms. Buford's smug smile and the joyful cacophony of the classroom. Suddenly, a sound that sent shivers down my spine scraped against the silence. "Don't you have a Valentine, sweetie?" The voice, like nails scraping a chalkboard, emanated from the dark abyss of the coat closet. I cautiously turned, squinting into the shadowy depths. A figure emerged, shrouded in murky darkness. Her mismatched clothes hung loosely on a skeletal frame, like ill-fitting drapes on a bony stage prop. Her hair, the color of seaweed after a storm, dripped in unseen rain. My breath hitched in my throat. Where had she come from? She shuffled forward, her movements jerky and unnatural. A cold, damp hand reached out, replacing my ruined card with a heart fashioned from black construction paper. Her eyes, or rather, the chilling emptiness where eyes should have been, held a hunger that sent a primal fear clawing at my insides. Before I could scream, she was gone, a fleeting memory in the dim light. In her wake, only the metallic tang of blood lingered in the air. Then, the classroom erupted in chaos. The fire alarm shrieked its piercing wail, and Miss Buford's frantic screams echoed as smoke filled the room. The charred remains of the black paper heart were the only evidence of the encounter, dismissed as a childish prank. But the terror gnawed at me long after the fire trucks left. Blamed for the incident and suspended from school, I felt a deeper fear festering within. Were they right? Was I simply making things up? Years turned into a blur. Valentine's Day became a day of self-imposed isolation, a shield against the dread that clawed at my sanity. In 1999, however, the fragile illusion of safety shattered in the chilling touch that brushed against my window. A cold breath tickled my ear, followed by a chilling whisper, "Happy Valentine's Day." I flung myself back, screaming, the darkness outside swallowing the spectral figure. My fevered dreams that night were a suffocating vortex of murky water and her skeletal hand reaching out, dragging me down into its depths. The truth, like a festering wound, refused to heal. I ditched school every February 14th, the fear a constant companion. Then, at 13, walking home from the bus stop on a gloomy Valentine's Day, the world shrunk around me as a cold hand clamped onto mine. It was her, older now, her face gaunt and her clothes ragged. Fear choked the scream that died in my throat as she dragged me towards the fetid drain at the edge of the road. My childhood nightmare resurfaced in chilling detail. This time, her grip loosened. Exhaustion overwhelmed me as the murky water closed over my head, the weight of the world pressing down on me. Reaching the bottom, I saw her hand point to something embedded in the muck. Was this some twisted game? My lungs screamed for air, but a surge of defiance fueled my defiance. I let go. The murky water welcomed me, and for a blissful moment, I was ready to let everything end. Then, the surface. Gasping for air, I coughed and sputtered, clinging to life. The weight on my chest eased, replaced by a bone-chilling question, why? The search for answers led me down a rabbit hole of dead ends and forgotten urban legends. The library yielded nothing but dusty folklore, and the internet searches proved fruitless. The memory of her, however, remained a constant reminder of the horror I had faced. Finally, in 2002, trapped between my parents' insistence and the approaching dread of another Valentine's Day, I found myself attending the annual high school dance. The garish lights and blaring music did little to dissipate the knot of fear in my stomach. As I wandered along the periphery, lost in my own thoughts, a flicker of movement in the topmost bleachers caught my eye. There she sat, a spectral nightmare in a tattered wedding dress, the damp sheen of her hair reflecting the colored lights. My breath caught in my throat. It couldn't be, could it? Driven by a desperate need, I stumbled towards her. "Who are you? Why are you doing this to me?" The words spilled out in a torrent, fueled by years of pent-up fear. She tilted her head, her empty sockets seeming to bore into me. "Look beneath," she rasped, her voice a dry whisper that sent shivers down my spine. Then, with a fluidity that belied her skeletal frame, she melted back into the shadows. My heart hammered a frantic tattoo against my ribs. "Look beneath what?" I whispered, the question echoing unanswered in the cavernous gym. My gaze darted around, searching for a clue, a sign. Then I spotted it. Beneath the bleachers where she had been perched lay a silent testament to a forgotten tragedy. A bouquet of dead roses, their once vibrant colors leached away by time, lay crumpled beside a half-decayed ribbon. The decayed flowers were choked with muck and trash, but a glint of gold caught my eye. Nestled amongst the decaying petals was a heart-shaped locket, fashioned from tarnished gold. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. It was cold and heavy, like a piece of history long buried. On the back, an inscription gleamed faintly in the dim light, RKL+EM, February 14, 1992. My breath hitched. Those initials, were they my father's? Raymond Keith Lancaster. RKL. It could be a coincidence, but a cold dread coiled in my gut. Who was EM? Why was that date significant? And why was this locket here, with these flowers? When my father picked me up from the dance 20 minutes later, I was tempted to ask him about it. But something held me back, a primal instinct to tread carefully. "Look beneath," the girl had said. What if she meant more than just the flowers? Until I knew more, I decided to keep my discovery a secret. The following days were a blur of nervous anticipation. Every time my parents left for work, I raced downstairs to the basement, drawn to the cool, sterile environment of my father's office. The bare white walls, and the silence that hung heavy in the air, seemed to magnify the unsettling feeling that had gripped me ever since the dance. It was an oppressive feeling, a constant sense of being watched. My father used the basement as a makeshift art studio, a place to escape the chaos of everyday life. There was a large desk where he painted intricate model ships, a couple of filing cabinets crammed with papers, and a bulky safe tucked away in the corner. I had never questioned what might be inside before. Business documents, my father had always said, and I'd never thought to doubt him. But now, with the inscription on the locket gnawing at my mind, curiosity gnawed at me. The safe, a relic from a bygone era, looked intimidating with its heavy metal door and an imposing dial. I scoured my father's desk for any clues, finding a dusty instruction manual, half hidden under a stack of paintbrushes. It explained the combination involved a 10-letter or number sequence, with 5 wrong attempts resulting in a permanent lockout. My heart pounded in my chest as I dialed the combination EM2141992. It was a gamble, a guess based on the inscription on the locket. To my astonishment, the safe clicked open on the third try. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a surge of apprehension. Inside, at first glance, there was nothing but stacks of old files and folders. But as I rummaged through the papers, my fingers brushed against something soft tucked beneath them. It was an envelope, thick with age, containing a collection of faded letters tied with a worn ribbon. My stomach lurched with a mixture of dread and anticipation. The letters were addressed to someone named Elizabeth Murphy, signed simply Raymond. A cold sweat prickled my skin as I recognized the initials, RKL. These were love letters, filled with endearments and stolen moments. But a dark undercurrent ran beneath the surface, a growing sense of unease that permeated the words. In one letter, dated February 16, 1992, Elizabeth wrote, "I know how bad you feel, but you did what was best for everyone. There's no point in destroying all our lives over one little accident." My breath caught in my throat. One little accident. The internet was a vast and powerful tool compared to the dusty library resources of my childhood. Within minutes of powering on the computer in my father's office, I found myself staring at a news article from February 14, 1992, headlined "Local Girl Missing." The grainy black and white photo showed a little girl, with a gap-toothed grin and a crown of brown hair. My heart hammered against my ribs as a cold recognition washed over me. It was her, the girl from the closet, the girl from the pond, the girl who haunted my Valentines. The article detailed the disappearance of 4-year-old Laura Broadwell from the outskirts of town. Reportedly last seen playing near a storm drain on Valentine's Day, the search for her had yielded no results. The case had gone cold within a year, leaving behind a community shrouded in grief and unanswered questions. The pieces of the puzzle began to click into place. Laura Broadwell. The dead roses. The locket engraved with my father's initials and Elizabeth's. The chilling whisper on Valentine's night, "Look beneath." My father was somehow connected to Laura's disappearance, of that much I was certain. But how? I reread Elizabeth's letters, searching for any clues that might shed light on the past. In one particularly revealing excerpt, Elizabeth wrote, "We can't keep meeting like this, Raymond. It's too dangerous. What would happen if someone found out? Please, let's just end it. It's for the best." This, coupled with the veiled reference to an accident in the previous letter, painted a horrifying picture. My father and Elizabeth were having an affair. Did Laura stumble upon them, leading to a confrontation with potentially fatal consequences? The fear festering in my gut intensified. I felt like a detective trapped in a twisted game of charades, piecing together a story that threatened to shatter my reality. Days turned into weeks as I delved deeper into the past. I spent hours in the basement, the weight of the discovery hanging heavy in the air. The knowledge strained my relationship with my parents, but I couldn't bring myself to confront them yet. The truth, however, was a hungry beast, gnawing at my sanity. I needed answers, even if they were horrifying. Desperate for more information, I decided to visit the local library again. This time, armed with Laura's name and the date of her disappearance, I scoured the dusty microfiche records. Finally, after hours of searching, I found a forgotten box containing case files on unsolved missing persons. My heart pounded as I scanned the file marked Laura Broadwell. The case file included police reports, witness statements, and heartbreaking pleas from Laura's parents. It also detailed the search efforts that had yielded nothing. But amidst the routine details, one particular line jumped out: scuff marks and traces of blue paint found near the storm drain. Blue paint? My father used blue paint in his models. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. This couldn't be a coincidence. Laura's disappearance and my father's involvement, the pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place, forming a horrifying picture. A wave of nausea washed over me. My father, the man who tucked me in at night and read me bedtime stories, could be responsible for a child's death? The conflicting emotions, love, fear, and a burning need for justice, threatened to consume me. That night, I dreamed of her again, the girl in the moldy Valentine. She stood by the storm drain, a spectral figure bathed in an ethereal light. This time, however, Her empty sockets seemed to hold a flicker of sadness, a silent plea. "Tell them," she rasped, her voice a mournful whisper that echoed in the vast emptiness of my dream. The next morning, I knew what I had to do. Packing the locket and Elizabeth's letters in my backpack, I left a note saying I had to get some fresh air. My steps led me to the police station, a looming brick building that held the promise of justice. The weight of the revelation hung heavy in the air as I recounted the story to the detective, tears blurring my vision. He listened intently, his expression unreadable. When I finished, a heavy silence filled the room. Then, he spoke, his voice a low murmur. "We'll need to verify your story, but based on the evidence you presented." The days that followed were a blur of police interviews and forensic tests. The storm drain was re-excavated, and traces of blue paint were found. DNA analysis confirmed the presence of both Laura and my father at the scene. The locket, with its inscription, became a key piece of evidence. My father came home to a police investigation and my tearful accusations. His initial denial crumbled under the weight of evidence. The affair with Elizabeth, the accident, the panicked cover-up, it all came pouring out. He hadn't meant to hurt Laura, he claimed, but seeing Elizabeth, the fear of his secret being exposed, had driven him to a moment of terrible judgment. The trial was a media frenzy. My world, once filled with the simple routines of teenage life, was turned upside down. Publicly labeled the daughter of a monster, I battled with shame and a gnawing sense of betrayal. My father received a sentence of several years in prison. The sentence brought little comfort, but an echo of the girl in the moldy Valentine's Day flickered in my mind. Perhaps not comfort, but a form of closure. Months later, I stood by Laura's grave, a simple white stone marking the place where her childhood dreams had been so cruelly cut short. Her parents, weathered and grief-stricken, embraced me with a tearful gratitude. Their forgiveness felt heavy, undeserved, yet a balm to the raw wound that had festered within me. Life continued, but the shadow of that Valentine's Day lingered. On the following February 14th, however, there were no nightmares, no spectral figures. Instead, I awoke to a single red rose on my doorstep, a single drop of glistening dew clinging to its velvety petal. It was a simple gesture, yet it felt like a message, a final goodbye from the girl in the moldy Valentine. The rose became a tradition. Every year, on February 14th, a red rose would appear on my doorstep, a silent reminder of the past and a fragile hope for the future. One year, a handwritten note accompanied the rose. "Thank you for letting me go." The tears that flowed that year were not of fear, but of a bittersweet sorrow and a newfound sense of peace. The girl in the moldy Valentine, once a symbol of terror, became a tragic reminder of a life lost and a lesson learned. The story became a cautionary tale, a whisper in the halls of my school, a chilling reminder etched into the fabric of our small town's history. The weight of the past, however, never truly fades. It becomes a part of who you are, a scar that may heal but never truly disappears. But with time, forgiveness, even of yourself, becomes possible. And sometimes, on a cold February morning, a single red rose can offer a fragile hope for a new beginning.